Hello, this is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
I've been your gang. This is Kev Dillon with the Black Country Blokes chewing the fat, with Aaron, Jew and Lee Cadman. Now, before we get into our very, very special guest, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Black Country Day. Now, this has been a good weekend or week for the Black Country. We've also gotten another award. So if Lee wants to tell us what the Black Country has got, not many places in the world have got it.
So we have just been awarded the UNESCO Global Geopark status, recognising the area of outstanding geographical heritage.
I know that don't mean much to most of us, but I know it's a rare award and the Black Country's got it. So I just wanted to mention that. The reason why my voice is a bit croaky, I'm a bit under the weather, but the show must go on, as a wise man once said. So I'd like to introduce our very, very special guest, a good personal friend of mine, Emma Dyson. Now, Emma's had lots of up and downs over the years, as most of us have, going around, even appearing on TV, starting her own brand, and unfortunately losing her father over lockdown. So, Emma, thank you, darling, for coming on. So, could you tell us a little bit, or as much as you want, about Emma Dyson?
Oh God, how long's the live? First of all, I feel really honoured to be here today. When I saw what you were doing, Kev, I was just blown away, and I think I sent you a voice note actually on Facebook, and I was physically in tears. I'm quite an emotional person anyway, and I'll probably cry on the call today because it'll be quite emotional. But I was really blown away with what you did and what you're doing right now to really raise awareness for mental health. And so before I even start anything about myself, I just want to thank all of you for inviting me here today and just keep spreading the love. It's so important, and you don't realize ever, do you, how many lives you're impacting by the things that you're sharing. So love to you all, appreciate that. Mwah.
Thank you.
So a little bit about myself. Okay, so I'm Emma. I'm also originally from the Black Country, and I left home when I was quite young, actually. I was about 18 years old when I left home. I was kind of mixed with the wrong crowd, as I'm sure a lot of people did at that age. I was with a guy who wasn't the best, quite abusive. He'd started kind of taking heroin. I was already taking a lot of drugs and was pretty much a bit of a drug addict by that time, but I was always a dancer, and dancing was my passion, and so it was the only thing that ever kind of really kept me going through all of the shit that was happening. We're going to talk about my dad a little bit more in a little while, but my mom and dad were going through a really shit time as well, and my dad, most people don't know this, but my dad had tried to take his life. And so I was the only person that he could speak to about stuff. He always says to me, we said we can use bad language, right?
Yeah.
He always says, Emma, he says, you ain't a girl. He's like, you're a bloke with tits. I was like, okay. And Kev, you know my dad, you can probably hear him saying that right now. So he's like, you're like a bloke with tits. And so he was like, going through a rough time, and I was really the only person that he could kind of confide in. So as a teenager, had all of these external influences, had all of this, pressure from, I felt like I was like a pillar keeping the whole family together. My sister was only 7 at the time, and, there's all kinds of horrible things happening. And I decided that the best thing for me to do was just to get away. And I was clinically depressed at the time, and I was, I was supposed to be at college, and I'd lie in bed, and my mom would go to work. But if people are watching this now, they have no idea, right? This is the first time I've really spoke about it. And I'd lie in bed and supposed to go to college, and I just used to roll over, skin up, just get high all day, and then my mom would come back from work for a lunch break, and I'd roll out of bed and I'd roll under my bed, and I'd lie under my bed and not move so she didn't hear me for a lunch break for an hour, because she thought I was at college, and then I'd get back into bed. And I did that for quite a while. And a friend of mine said to me, you know, Emma, you're a good dancer, you could like make a career of this. And so gave me this newspaper called The Stage, and there was auditions for different kind of companies, and there was Butlins, and there was Pontins, and there was Haven, and you had to write to them. You know, didn't have the internet back then. You had to write to them. And the Haven was the only one that had a phone number, and I was in such a state of depression that I wasn't in a right state of mind to write a letter, right? So I picked up the phone and got an audition, ended up being dance captain for them, choreographing some of their shows. I lived all over the UK. Saved my life, literally saved my life. You know, the week before, a friend of mine had set himself on fire in a petrol station after, you know, taking a cocktail of all kinds of stuff and covering himself in petrol. And it was time, you know. Got a friend that was selling the Big Issue in Wolverhampton. In fact, my ex was reported to be selling the Big Issue in Wolverhampton. So I was really on the verge, and it was that kind of changed my life, really. And I didn't look back since. I've moved all over the place.
Isn't it funny, sometimes when we're at that crossroads of life, and it can be a hobby, it can be circumstance, but you can either turn right way or the bloody wrong way.
Absolutely.
And like, as you say, we know a lot of the same people, and you can't blame them for going that way.
No.
But if you're lucky, you have that guardian angel, or whatever you believe is, tugging on your shoulder going, here's another option.
Yeah. Definitely. I really believe that, mate. I really believe that. So then I worked in entertainment, traveled all over, lived in all different parts of the UK and was dancing. And then I went into managing the entertainment. So I was entertainment manager for Haven Holidays for Bourne Leisure. Had a bit of a family emergency, came back home after moving to Blackpool. I was in a band. I was singing in a vocal trio. That all went a bit weird. Came back home and I was like, I can't live here anymore. I need to get out. So that's when I went to start working on cruise ships and traveled all over working on cruise ships. I met my ex and ended up moving to Colorado, living there for about 7 years. But it was when I started working on cruise ships that I started really getting into jewelry and gemstones. As a child, I've always been fascinated by geology and nature. I was a big nature nerd, just like my dad. But it was really that step that has brought me to where I am now with Rock Chic and with the business that I have now.
And how wonderful you're doing. Like, if anyone does want to follow Emma, I think her show notes are in on our Facebook page, Rock Chic. And it's brilliant. Just what I love about Emma is, we were talking off air about this, Emma's never, I'm trying not to offend you, never been normal. She's a proper, she's just happy being Emma. And we're on about positive and negative vibes that the world sends out. And Emma's a bit like us four lads who are normally here. You know, it's not just what we eat that goes into us, it's what we absorb. And these negative vibes can really bring us down, being on social media or the people at work or the people at gym, you know, and their negativeness can really get you down. So it's all about finding your medicine. Yeah,
it is. And it's so important to take time for yourself. You know, I have a Facebook group and it's for crystal lovers, nature nerds and hippie souls. And we have a self-care Sunday. And it is all about sharing the ways that we can take care of ourselves. You know, it could be something as, you know, running yourself a bath and switching off your technology, or going and taking a walk, or I'm really into grounding, you know, taking your shoes and socks off and getting your feet on the ground outside. I think that's so important, certainly with all the influences that we get from all the electromagnetic fields from, you know, computers and phones and all of that. And we walk around with rubber soles on our feet. And we're not grounding our energy into the earth, so we can be like all over the place, going all batshit crazy. So, you know, just going out and having some time to take some time out for yourself, switching off your technology, being with nature, getting connected, whatever that might be. You know, I saw a quote the other day, and it was, I can't remember it exactly, but it said something along the lines of, you know, hustling and working every hour God sent has kind of in this society has become like a badge of honor. And I think that's really messed up. Like, you know, we shouldn't live in this world where we have to feel that we've got to just like hustle all the time. We should be able to really connect.
I think that's been one of the good things about Corona, that people have had to stop. If you haven't got to go to work, you've got to stop. You've got to, and I think a lot of people are going to realise what's important to them or what's more important.
Yeah, Lee, absolutely. I love that. And people have come out like doing like new hobbies and things. People have learned to bake and make their own pasta, and people have like, I mean, we grow a lot of our own fruit and veg anyway, but people have started their own gardens and you know, gone back to basics. All the things I mean, Kev spoke about this. We had a conversation, we were talking about this before we you know, a week or so ago. There's some real positives, and there's some real sense of community that's really come about it as well, which is really lovely. You know, in the village where I live, people kind of coming together. There's a guy who lives down the road, and before they do the clap for the NHS on a Thursday, no, I know whatever day it is.
It was a Thursday.
Thanks. He's got his decks, and he's been like doing requests, and we've got like a village Facebook group, and everyone's been sending their requests, and he's been out doing an hour DJing for everybody to sit in the field outside and listen to him. And yeah, there's been some real positives that have come out of this amongst all of the madness.
And like, I'm going to bring it like full circle now back to what we were saying at the start, because I loved your dad, Jimmy D, and he had COPD.
Yeah.
And so, and he'd had it for a long bloody time, and then he'd had prostate cancer, was it as well? And
yeah.
So
cry.
no, it's all right, darling, because I love that emotion.
Yeah.
And he was such a remarkable bloke, but like, it wasn't the fact that he died, and we've talked about this. He said it was the wrong bloody time.
Yeah.
Because with Jim, he was such a character, and anyone around our neck of the woods, around the Black Country, I was going to say Warleaf, Wordsley, but he was bigger than the Black Country because he was such a remarkable bloke. Yeah. And we were all looking for, I know it sounds horrible, looking forward to having that piss up or that getting together. Not we're wishing him dead.
No, you know? I know this sounds a bit weird though, but I'm kind of glad that it happened before all of the corona. And I know people might think that sounds a bit morbid and a bit like messed up, but like, I am glad that like it happened at the beginning rather than, because obviously he got COPD, so he was on oxygen permanently. I mean, he smoked like a freaking chimney, right? And we all know that. And he liked a little bit of recreational Rizzler rolling, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day, and just like the impact. He never wanted to be a burden on anybody, right? You know what he was like. He was a man's man, and he would never want to be a burden. And it broke his heart for my mom to have to, you know, take care of him as she did in his last kind of year and what have you. So yeah, for my mum to have had to like self-isolate, which they would have done, because of Dad's condition, he'd hated it. And I almost think, God, did he know that like that this was going to happen? So he kind of went, like, it was literally just as we were going into lockdown. It was bizarre. Yeah.
But I know there wasn't allowed, certain people weren't allowed to be at the service, and we weren't allowed to have the wake.
No, that was horrible. I think you can't prepare yourself, but we've known that he was going to die from this, right? So and to watch him kind of deteriorate after being, you know, he'd come back when I was a teenager. He'd come back home sometimes, and he'd be like bleeding where he'd tripped over and pissed up on the way home, or he'd had a fight with somebody or something. Like, he was just like, and he was such a character. He had the biggest heart, and he had time for everybody. He took time for everybody. He was a massive local legend, and I kind of had some comfort in knowing that when he did die, that there'd be standing room only in the creme. I knew there'd be 200 people at that you know, funeral. I knew that the way could be absolutely packed, and we'd all be telling stories of some of the absolutely wacky batshit stuff that he'd done over the years, and some of the crazy stories that people have got. And I had some comfort in that. It was like it would be a big celebration of his life. And when that didn't happen, and when we were only allowed, and I'm grateful that we could have 20 people at the service, but it was horrible. Like it was really, he didn't get the send off that he deserved, and a lot of people, you know, felt the same and said the same. And that was really, not saying that it was worse than you know, his death, but I grieved more for that, I think, than I did when he passed, because I kind of not prepped for it, but I was expecting that a little bit more, you know.
Well, Aaron, you've just lost your uncle, haven't you, over the last few? So is there anything you'd like to comment to Emma with?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I just want to take it back a little bit, because your story is fascinating for me. So it's obviously the first time we've had a conversation, and looking at it from the outside perspective, obviously we've kind of condensed it for this show. It's almost like you're chopping and changing, and you're moving around, and you're going to different places and living, but at the same time you're just trying to find yourself, which I think is one of the most important things in the world. And you mentioned something about people hustling and working 24 hours a day. And I believe a lot of that is because they think that's the norm and that's what they should be doing, not actually what they want to be doing. Yeah. So I love that, because it's refreshing, because you're living your best life on your terms, how you want to do it. And even the self-care Sunday, my wife will vouch for this. It's literally, we have the self-care Sundays at home where, you know, we get the Epsom salts in the bath and then just relax and do whatever we basically fancy. But yeah, moving on to obviously about your dad, I'm really sorry for your loss. And I think whenever you go through loss, you can always find a silver lining. You know, sometimes you can say, at least we had that moment, or we had someone to love so much that it hurts us now. And that's a blessing that many people won't get. And I was, I suppose, fortunate now, having heard your story, that when my uncle passed away, he was literally like my older brother, very, very, very close we were growing up. I felt blessed because we were actually allowed to go and see him. So we just kind of come out of lockdown a bit, and we actually had a funeral. And given he was an alcoholic for quite a long period of time, which kind of plagued his life, at the funeral there was a great attendance because of the character that he actually was. So again, a silver lining there. But the question I wanted to ask you, obviously you had it at a separate time, and I'm trying to think of an answer in my head, which is you had a bit of time during lockdown when everything's slowing down, just like Lee says. What was your grieving process? How did you overcome that, and what kind of things did you do? And I'm just saying that in case somebody's listening and maybe has gone through the same thing or goes through something like that.
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. I was okay. I was kind of, I was sad, but I'm also a very spiritual person, and some people are going to listen to this and think that it's absolute bullshit, and that's fine. Everybody has their own thoughts. So after he passed, like, I felt his presence really strong, like really strong. And I've never felt peace like it. When I walked into the house, my mum had called me up to say she thought my dad was dead. She found him at home. I've never felt energy like, I've got goosebumps just talking. I've never felt energy like it just walking into the house. So I don't believe that that's the end. You know, you can't destroy energy, and we're energy, right? So I believe that he was with me for a long time afterwards. And I was focused on getting everything sorted for the funeral and organizing what we needed to do for the funeral. So I was occupied with that. I was more focused on that kind of thing. So I grieved, and there were just like little silly things. Like, my dad was a real avid gardener, and we were going to buy some potatoes, and in the garden centre in Webbs, and I just burst into tears, and my other half's like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "I just want to call him and ask him what potatoes I should get." Like, little things like that, right? Because they just, you get those triggers. So I work from home. My partner works from home. In terms of the whole lifestyle, there hasn't been a massive change for us. We haven't got any kids. We're not homeschooling. So our lifestyle itself hasn't drastically changed. But after the funeral, a couple of days before, I was not in a great place. And then afterwards, I wasn't in. And then I went through the guilt. You know, you go through these stages, right? So it's like the guilt oh my gosh, I shouldn't have rolled my eyes when he texted me, you know, or I shouldn't, my dad wasn't very tech savvy, or I shouldn't have been annoyed with him when he was, you know, or I should have gone to see him more. You know, I live 45-50 minute drive away. And I made a real effort to make sure that I go and see him. We were best friends. He wasn't just my dad. He was my best mate. We go out drinking together. We had the same friends. Like, you know, he was my best mate. So I went through all of that guilt as well. And you go through the different stages, don't you? And then just feeling like should I have done this, and I should have done that, and then I've come out of that now. And you know, I'm still emotional. If I talk to somebody I haven't spoke to before, I mean, it was March when he passed, but it's still really raw. And then Father's Day as well. I thought, oh, it's just a day. You know, it's just Hallmark Day. It's just another way to make money. I don't care about that. It's just it doesn't mean anything. And then I was, it really affected me more than I ever imagined that it would, really.
Yeah. I was talking to Aaron about his uncle, and I was on Aaron's podcast on Sunday, and I was talking to a lady who lost her husband through cancer. And I said that there is no right way of grieving. It's like not saying there's one diet and we'll all be slim. With grieving, some people have got to stay busy. Some people have got to put their head in the sand. Some people have got to be at work the next day. Some people, we're all different. And we can't tell someone how to deal with it. That's your medicine. But I think the worst thing about grieving, and everyone who I know who has grieved and I've grieved, as you said, is that guilt. Did he know that I loved him? Should I have bought her a drink last time I saw him? Last time I called him a god idiot. And I honestly believe that they know. They know. And your dad, every time I bloody talk to him, I'd go, how's Emma? You go, Dill, she's here, she's there. Oh, you know, and he loved you so much. She was unbelievable. And your sister, obviously.
Yeah. No, he was really proud of me. He was. And it's emotional. It's emotional listening to you say that. Most people I talk to about losing my father didn't know him, you know, and so it's like it's a really weird thing talking to somebody who actually knew him pretty well, and he thought the world of you, mate. Honestly, I've got Dill's text me, and he's
well, last time I talked to him, he was in hospital, and that young Vietnamese lad had drawn his picture.
Oh, my heart. Oh, yeah, just the epitome of my dad, really. And he always had time for everybody. And there was a guy from Vietnam. He was in the psychiatric section of the hospital, and Dad was up in the middle of the night, as he often was, in hospital. He spent quite a long time in hospital, on and off. And this guy had got some mental health issues, and he only moved to the UK a few years ago. Didn't speak a word of English when he got here. Ended up in the psychiatric unit at Russell's Hall. And one of the porters, or the wardens or whatever, was walking with him, and he just came in and started talking to my dad, and had a real talent for art. And my dad's like, "We can draw me if you want." And he was there with him for hours and hours. And this kid just needed a bit of a break, and just, you know, Dad always had time for people. And that was really lovely. He'd drawn. It didn't look that much like him, but it was really lovely.
But isn't it funny that bit of time that your dad spent with that bloke? And I remember talking to your dad, and he's going, Dill. He goes, if I was that kid's nurse, I'd have him right. But they haven't got time for him, Dill. And he goes, just by talking to me or letting him talk at me, it's making all the difference. And that was your dad all over.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. Really grateful for that. Yeah.
Lads, have you got anything you'd like to ask Emma or talk to Emma?
I think just on the last point, a message maybe to anyone watching this. Obviously, Gil, I think you're 100% right, Emma. It's definitely part of the grieving process, no matter how great a person you were to that person. But I think if we could take any lesson from maybe this episode or experiencing something like that, it is to value time more than anything. And sometimes we think we need to get our parents, you know, shiny cars or a house to pay them off, when really all we actually need is just to sit with them or give them a phone call for like 10 minutes and actually be present. and I'm guilty of that. So I've done a lot of the stuff that you said, so I've resonated with it. I like, even my wife and me now, we both work from home, we're self-employed, we've got no children, but I was like that rabbit on like the mouse on the wheel, just constantly working. And what I was doing was I'd go and see my parents, but I was never present. And now it's like a conscious decision, absolutely, like emails and responding and stuff.
I hear
and
you.
now it's all about time being the most important commodity. And one of the mantras I live by every single day is I'm going to try and fill my day up with doing more things that I love and avoiding the things that I dislike. And that's it. It's very simple. And it's like 2 things to remember, which, you know, I can still remember. And that's one of the things I'd encourage people doing this, is make sure, or just one day, get a pen and paper and write down every single thing that you've done in the day. And which one of those things actually serve you? Which things do you actually enjoy and need? And then the things that you don't like, just get rid of them. Because like you said, you know, as we know, life is short.
Yeah, Aaron, absolutely. That's brilliant. And I'm a big advocate of that. Another thing that I'm a really big advocate of as well, and I think everybody should do this, is having a gratitude journal. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is it's next to my bed, and I just write a list of all the things that I'm grateful for. You know, so much going on at the moment, you know, anger or frustration or sadness or whatever. You can't experience those emotions if you're feeling the emotion of gratitude. So I think it's so important that we kind of start our day in that mindset, and just spend, you know, 5 minutes just taking some time to write down the things that we're grateful for. And what you've just said about, you know, doing more of the things that light you up, you know, and less of the things that don't. I had a word this year, and my word was flow, and it was doing more of the things that light me up. And, you know, amongst losing my dad, I lost my uncle, and I lost a friend as well. Amongst all of the crap that's happened, you know, it's finding that the positives within everything, right? It's finding the goodness within things as well, and removing those things from your life that no longer serve you. You know, you're not a tree. If you're not happy, move.
Absolutely.
Right?
Move. Absolutely. And I think you've shown that in your story as well. So well.
What did you say to me the other day, Em? It's not what happens, it's how we deal with it.
Yeah, my motto is my life motto has always been, in life, you know, 10% is what happens and 90% is how you deal with it, right? So we all get dealt shit sometimes, and we have a choice. And I think this is sometimes really difficult for people to grasp in their life, is that you have a choice on how you deal with something. You know, yes, it's going to hurt if you lose somebody. Yes, you know, we have problems in our lives that are going to be challenging, but you have a choice every day when you wake up or when something happens. You know, am I going to react to this? Am I going to find some inner peace? And am I going to choose to, you know, react in a different way? So yeah, we all get a choice in life.
That's wonderful. Unless there's anything anyone else wants to say, I'm going to have
Actually, Emma, sorry, Kev, I'd just like to talk. I'd like to go into a bit more about your business now, Rock Chic. Because I was looking over your site earlier, and
sorry,
I'd like to go in how you found that, because it's quite unusual, isn't it? It's not something you find every day of the week. And how do these things help you? I was looking, I saw like the men's energy bracelet. So how does that provide you with energy, or is that just giving you good energy throughout? Can you just talk a bit about that, please?
Oh yeah, how long we got? So yeah, crystals. Again, it's something that some people believe in and some people don't. Everybody has their own opinions, and I respect that. So different crystals, it's all about vibration. Okay, we all vibrate, everything vibrates. Different crystals have different vibrational frequencies, and we can attune with those frequencies to be able to work with those energies to be able to assist us in various things in life. So for example, rose quartz is like a gemstone of love. So this is like a hug in a gemstone. So if you're going through a bit of a shit time, or you wanted to, you know, some more self-care, I've got 2 big rose quartz rocks up the end of my back that I have with my Epsom salts bath as well, Aaron. I get my little tub out, and I'm alchemy with my little different salts and essential oils and stuff. So rose quartz is a crystal for love. Something, for example, like fluorite, this is a crystal that I always have on my desk. This really helps with focus and running a business and being a creative person that I am. That's not something that I'm often exhibiting at all times, is focus. So different crystals have different energies, but they're also just beautiful, and it's amazing to me to think that like all of the right parts and pieces, all of the right minerals came together with the right amount of heat and pressure to create something so beautiful that's natural. And it was Dudley Museum, a piece of pyrite that I got on well, obviously Dudley Museum's not there anymore, but I bought a piece of pyrite on a school trip, and I was just like blown away that Mother Nature could have created something so beautiful. And that's really where my passion for crystals kind of started. And I've always been a nature nerd and just love wildlife. But yeah, all different, there's crystals for protection. There's crystals that protect against EMF. The men's protection bracelet, that'll be something that would, transmute negative energy. So there's loads of science behind it as well. I'm a big science nerd. I love the science side of things. But something like black tourmaline, for example, that actually transmutes energy. So you can actually put pressure on it, and you can actually create energy, and so it will attach particles to the end, and then it will push them away at the other end. So there is some science behind it, but a crystal like that would be great for getting rid of the negative vibes.
I have to say, looking over your site, even if you don't believe in it, go and check out the site, because there's just some really fascinating pieces you've got on there. And to say they come from the earth is just unreal. Go check it out.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
No problem.
We've got Kev on mute. Should we just unmute him? I was just going to say as well, there, Emma, I think my wife's probably on your site now because she absolutely loves that kind of stuff as well. So we went Japan at the back end of last year, I believe, and we found this like fascinating shop which had all this kind of stuff that you've got as well, all natural stuff. We brought loads of it back. I don't know what half the stuff means or does, but yeah, she's fascinated by that stuff.
Oh, amazing. Well, I do live, so I do education. I've got a group where I do I teach 2 masterclasses a week in the group. So we're talking about optical phenomenons with crystals and going into some of the science of it this month. And then I do kind of a live sale over on the Rock Chic Facebook page as well, which is fantastic. At Rock Chic TV.
Oh, we'll put that in the notes, won't we, lads?
Cheers.
So while I'm advertising next week, have a think of a quote that's got you through life, or a little saying that you'd like to help people with. So next Tuesday at the same time, 6 o'clock, we're going to be joined by Emma Chatsfield, who was supposed to be coming on a few weeks ago, but had to pull out for circumstances. So she's had all of her own problems, like most of us have. It's another interesting story. I met her when I was doing my mental health first aid course with Ian Hydes at Fitness, Mental Health at First CIC. So join us next week. So Emma, what quote?
Oh gosh, I want to go back and say what I said before. It's my life quote. In life, 10% is what happens, 90% is how you react to it. You get a choice.
And in the wise words of the old pal, stay cool.
Stay cool, won't you?
So thank you, Emma, for joining us, for everyone for listening. So until we talk next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.